What's up, Hammer supporters? Before diving into today's news, smash the like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments what you think about West Ham's situation. You won't want to miss anything. West Ham are reportedly targeting another defensive reinforcement, and this time the name on the radar is German center back Jan Bisek from Inter Milan. According to Gazzetta dello Sport, the Hammers are among the clubs monitoring the 24-year-old situation, with the player said to be open to a Premier League move. Bisek is the kind of defender who stands out not only for his strength, but also for his reading of the game, a modern center back with solid distribution who had already impressed in Germany before moving to Italy. The Italian press claims he has grown frustrated with his limited minutes under Simone Inzaghi, and that could open the door for West Ham to make a move in January, when Nuno Espirito Santo is expected to receive a fresh budget to strengthen his squad. This interest comes at a good time because, let's be honest, West Ham's defense has been making fans nervous. Konstantinos Mavropanos' injury has exposed the lack of reliable options at the back. Igor, the loanee from Brighton, is available but barely seen, which already says a lot. The team showed signs of improvement in that 3-1 win over Newcastle, but a single solid performance doesn't erase a season full of lapses and defensive errors. Nuno keeps tweaking, looking for balance, testing combinations, but the ideal formula still seems out of reach. That's why bringing in another center back has become a top priority. Interestingly, against Newcastle, the starting defense, and with Max Kilman and Jean-Claire Todibo, finally offered some stability. Both played with authority, especially Todibo, who for the first time looked like the player the club paid so much for. The Frenchman appeared calm and composed, leading the back line, winning duels and exuding confidence. It was the kind of display supporters had been waiting for since his arrival. But as the saying goes, one swallow doesn't make a summer. West Ham's problem has been consistency, and the feeling is that at any moment the defense could slip up again. That's exactly why Nuno wants more competition for places, to push standards and prevent complacency. Still, the Bisek case is far from simple. He only joined Inter a short while ago and is still working his way into the rotation. Even with limited minutes, he's part of a side competing for the Serie A title. That's a completely different reality from what he'd find at West Ham, who are fighting to stay away from the lower end of the Premier League table. On the other hand, the appeal of English football is undeniable. Playing in the Premier League means visibility, intensity, and higher wages, and if the player himself wants to test his skills here, the London club have good reason to explore the opportunity. The key point in all of this is that Nuno Espirito Santo is slowly shaping the squad in his image. Since taking charge, the Portuguese manager has made it clear that he wants intensity, tactical discipline, and defensive solidity, something the team hasn't consistently had since the best days of David Moyes. Nuno knows there are still gaps to fill, and that the January window will be crucial for correcting the team's course. And although the board insists the budget is modest, internal sources suggest he'll have enough for at least one significant signing, and if it's up to the manager, that priority will be the back line. West Ham, so often criticized for signing players who failed to deliver, now seem to be moving in a more strategic direction. Bisek is young, physically suited to the Premier League, and yet to reach his peak. It's the kind of calculated risk that could pay off in the medium term. The issue is whether Inter are willing to part with a player under a long contract who costs them a fair sum. Moreover, the Italian club have no urgent reason to sell, which could push West Ham to propose a loan with an option to buy, something consistent with their recent transfer policy. Sources close to Claret and Hugh, a fan outlet, have already indicated that January's focus will be on loans or opportunities from South America, where value for money tends to be higher. But the supporters, weary of seeing promises fall short, want immediate results. They feel the team needs players ready to contribute right now with experience and reliability. The problem is that the mid-season market rarely offers perfect solutions. In that sense, Bisek represents the fine line between risk and necessity, a calculated bet that could either stabilize the defense or end up as another unfinished story. For Nuno, the challenge will be convincing the player that joining West Ham right now means more than entering a relegation fight. It's about being part of a rebuilding project that aims to restore the club's competitive edge. Before we carry on, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. This is really important because it strengthens the claret and blue family, making our West Ham bigger and stronger every day. The interest in Jan Bisek might seem bold, but when you look closely at West Ham's current situation, it makes perfect sense. Since Nuno Espirito Santo's arrival, the club have been in a period of transition, with the manager trying to balance what he inherited with what he wants to build. And as with any long-term project in English football, the foundation must start with the defense. The Portuguese coach has already realized that without a solid backline, no tactical plan will hold. That's precisely why the club's activity ahead of the January window has been so focused on this area. Supporters, tired of inconsistency, are beginning to notice small but meaningful changes. The playing style is more direct, more disciplined, showing clear signs of what Nuno values most: compactness, close lines, and intensity off the ball. But for that to truly work, he needs defenders capable of adapting quickly to the Premier League's physical and mental demands. Todibo has talent, Kilman is reliable, but depth remains thin, and any injury reshapes the entire picture. The absence of Mavropanos has already forced Nuno to improvise, which is why Bisek's profile fits exactly what he's looking for. The German, who previously played for Cologne and Aarhus before earning his move to Inter, is viewed as a defender on the rise. He's quick, strong in the air, and reads the game impressively well for his age. He's not a traditional stopper, but rather a mobile defender who can handle pace and build from the back. That's precisely what catches the eye, because West Ham have struggled with slow transitions and mistakes in their first pass out of defense. In a league where transitions can define a team's season, having someone who can break pressure and keep possession is invaluable. Another reason Nuno is looking for this profile is the club's recent track record with younger defenders. The board learned from signings like Naif Aguerd, who brought both performance and resale value. The current logic follows the same path. Invest in potential that can mature within the Premier League and eventually generate profit. The coach knows he needs experience, but he also wants fresh energy. His goal is to build a hybrid squad, veterans for stability and youth for intensity. Interestingly, this kind of planning has always been difficult for West Ham to sustain. The club tend to react impulsively. When results dip, they change manager and philosophy. When things go well, they overcommit and age the squad. Now, however, there seems to be a deliberate effort to create continuity, and that starts with Nuno Espirito Santo. Since his arrival, the impression is that communication between the bench and the board has become more professional. The pursuit of Bisek reflects that, not a flashy signing, but a technically logical one. Of course, the deal won't be easy. Inter Milan, currently fighting for the Serie A title, have little reason to release a promising young player. But football moves fast. If Bisek wants more minutes and believes he's ready for the Premier League, a loan could suit all parties. West Ham would get an immediate reinforcement, the player gains experience, and Inter retain control of his future. What could complicate things, however, is West Ham's current league position. For Bisek, leaving a title chase in Italy for a mid-table battle in England requires not just courage, but conviction. Still, challenges like this often attract players eager to prove themselves. And Nuno has a history of getting the best out of players with something to prove. During his Wolverhampton days, he helped rebuild careers and develop unpolished talent. At West Ham, he's trying to repeat that formula. The coach knows that tactical change alone isn't enough. Mentality must evolve too. And someone like Bisek, young, ambitious, and hungry for progress, fits right into that mold. Supporters, meanwhile, are cautiously optimistic. There's hope because they see the team slowly forming an identity, but there's also skepticism born from experience. Take Todibo as an example, a high-profile signing who's only now finding consistency. The question is whether West Ham can maintain the standard they showed against Newcastle or fall back into their defensive lapses. The January transfer window might define that outcome, and bringing in Bisek could show the club have finally learned from past mistakes. Ultimately, this potential move is about more than a transfer. It's a statement of intent. If West Ham truly want to progress, they must stop patching holes and start building something lasting. And that process begins with a defense that commands respect. The Premier League is ruthless with teams lacking structure, and Nuno knows his project will stand or fall on that foundation. That's why, amid all the rumors, Bisek's name feels symbolic. He represents the type of signing who could help transform the entire system. Before we carry on, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. This is really important because it strengthens the Claret and Blue family, making our West Ham bigger and stronger every day. If there's one thing West Ham's history teaches us, it's that the club never chooses the easy route. Every opportunity comes with risk, drama, and uncertainty. And this potential move for Jan Bissek is no exception. On paper, it all looks promising. A young German defender, strong, modern, and with room to grow. But supporters know that football isn't played on paper. Potential means nothing without consistency, and that only comes with time and stability. Two things West Ham have rarely enjoyed in recent years. That's why Nuno Espirito Santo's challenge is twofold. He must build a reliable defense, and also change how players perceive West Ham as a destination. The win over Newcastle gave a glimpse of what's possible. Todibo looked transformed, confident, commanding, and Kilman offered reassurance beside him. The team played with spirit, finally reflecting the manager's vision. But as Nuno himself admits, one good match means little. The goal is to make that standard routine. In that sense, signing Bissek would be a strategic step. The German wouldn't just cover for Mavropanos during his recovery, he'd raise the overall level of the squad. Nuno wants every player to fight for his place and earn selection through merit, not necessity. That mindset separates clubs battling relegation from those building towards Europe. What's interesting is how this defensive rebuild reflects a broader shift within the club. The board recognized that West Ham have lived through cycles of highs and lows, memorable European runs followed by domestic slumps. Much of that stems from an unbalanced squad built without long-term planning. Nuno's goal now is to bring coherence, to think not only about tomorrow's match but about the seasons ahead. Recruiting someone like Bissek fits that logic, a player with potential who can grow alongside the project. There's also symbolism in such a signing. Bringing in a defender from a club of Inter Milan's stature would send a powerful message that West Ham remain ambitious despite recent struggles. It would tell supporters and players alike that the club are not content with mere survival. That sense of ambition is crucial, especially after the tense months of protests and frustration. The victory over Newcastle helped lift the mood, but the atmosphere at Rush Green remains cautious. A signing like this could reignite belief. Of course, the Premier League can be unforgiving to newcomers. Adapting mid-season from Serie A to England's intensity is no small task. The pace, physicality, and aerial battles demand total focus. West Ham cannot afford a long adaptation period. They need impact. That means if the club do move for Bissek, they must ensure he arrives ready to contribute immediately. And that's where Nuno Espirito Santo's experience comes into play. He knows how to manage transition phases, how to introduce new players to the rhythm of English football. His time at Wolverhampton and Tottenham taught him how to identify the right mental profile for this environment. More than tactics, he values attitude, commitment, discipline, and work ethic. In his dressing room, those who lack focus don't last long. Perhaps the most revealing aspect of this story is what it says about West Ham's current identity. After years of trying to balance ambition with financial caution, the club seemed ready to evolve with smarter decisions. No more expensive gambles or over-reliance on aging players. The future lies in combining experience with youth, pragmatism with bravery. If Bissek is indeed the target, it shows a plan rooted in that vision. Supporters remain divided, as always. Some want proven names to deliver instant results. Others are willing to trust the process. But everyone shares one desire, a competitive, resilient, and respected West Ham. The win over Newcastle was a reminder of that potential. To make it a habit, though, the club must build a foundation strong enough to weather setbacks. That's exactly what Nuno Espirito Santo is trying to do. The Portuguese coach may not be a headline-grabbing appointment, but he's a leader who values collective growth over individual flair. And perhaps that's the real turning point for West Ham. Decisions that finally make sense, signings with purpose, and a vision that extends beyond survival. In that context, the possible arrival of Jan Bissek would be more than a transfer. It would be a symbol of a club rediscovering its identity and preparing to rise again. So that's all for today, folks. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, leave a comment, share, and of course subscribe to the channel for more. Take care, and I'll see you next time.